It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. It's Feedback Friday, and this Feedback Friday, I'm recording this way early, cause no joke, I was booked solid Wednesday and Thursday, and so I'm recording this on Tuesday evening. But this was a week that made me happy because one, there was like a I don't like this comment regarding the Doctor Who discussion that I'm actually like, all right, this, this is the way to comment on this stuff. And there's a similar comment on Manly Monday about the criticism spiral. And I like to read these comments because it's like, look, you can disagree with stuff or have a different framing, and you don't have to be a dick. So I like to provide examples of that. So if you like this content, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session. For someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/Leanna K. Sign up for Leanna Care session yourself. Link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you like this content. So the thing about the criticism spiral, this is only a portion of the comment. But he said, I like the video. What you are asking is correct. What you're also asking is dangerous. If a man is not positioned to have more of a say-so in his social standing, every reasonable and necessary thing you've asked for here will make things more miserable for him for the short run. And that short one may be quite a while. And that's true. I mean, I've done content about, how to recognize you're in an abusive relationship before, and obviously everybody's gotta make choices that are best for them. I do think there's a lot of, this about Manly Monday, so men that are in abusive situations and may not realize that it is, it's a uniquely abusive entire group. I know I had to get out of some of those in the past, and it was weird because like I got out of one and got into another and got out of that and got into another, and you sort of work your way up, and you have to be prepared to take a couple tries at it. It's better to be alone for a while than to be in an actively abusive situation. No, that's easy to say, but the socializing thing is not easy sometimes. It's sometimes hard to meet new people and make friends. I do think you do have to take some risks in order to make friends, but they don't have to be murderous risks, right? They're calculated risks, and that's a video for another time. But yes, none of this stuff that I suggest is easy. It is better in the long run, but that short term can really suck. Another commenter said, similarly, for me at least, criticism spirals are more self-inflicted, where I'm usually just stuck in a loop of constantly berating myself and comparing myself unfavorably to other people. Upward social comparisons. There you go. Usually with the rationale of, if I constantly insult myself and put myself down, people won't think I don't know how to laugh at myself. But there's a part of me that keeps telling me this type of emotional self-abuse and self-inflicted emotional constipation is only going to make things worse. And I used to run myself down because I thought, one, if I did it, other people wouldn't. That's not true. But also, I thought it was expected of me, because if I didn't do it, she thinks she's so great, and it would just make the abuse worse. And what I've sort of determined is that everybody gets it in some way. Believe it or not, the most popular person you think you know, especially anybody in the public eye, they have haters, and they are brutal haters. And the person you think, why would anybody hate them? They're the best. They have pretty vicious haters. Everybody has them. There is no that thing you might think that everybody knows and you just don't. It is not the case. Other people are just better maybe at muddling through it or faking it. Or, some people, because of social hierarchies, they get to set the rules, the arbitrary rules that everybody else has to dance to. And I do think that it would be a better society overall if, one, we had fewer social rules, but some of the social rules were basically say what you mean and mean what you say. And if you don't, come back to me when you say what you mean and mean what you say. That is a really big rule I have. But when you're younger, and going back to the social standing thing again, the nice, and you'll hear this from a lot of older people, especially in nerddom, but especially older women. Because we're like old and gross now, nobody gives a shit what we do. So there are less eyes on us. There's less social controls. We're sort of just, we can do our own thing because we are not status anymore. But there were some comments on, there were one in particular talking about me when I was younger and my cosplay photos. And I don't want to encourage those sort of comments, so I'm not going to call any more attention to it. People have to learn appropriateness. And when someone says, I don't like this, just think it. Don't say it. Like, really, there is a big difference between thinking something privately and informing someone that you think that. Like, a little sense, please. Like, and I don't think people usually mean harm. But the problem is that if no one says to someone, look, this is the effect that words like this have on somebody, this is the reaction you're probably going to get. A lot of people don't care enough to deal with the person. Person usually gets upset when they're given feedback like that. And so a lot of people just don't bother. And that's fair. But, how do people learn unless they're told that? And it is difficult that, this socialization for a lot of people wasn't done earlier. I think part of the issue with people now is that everything was so go to school, go to college, get job. And everything was so on a track. I was leaving high school just when the standardized testing was going in. And the problem with a standardized testing approach to education is, what do you get good at? Writing tests. Not adapting to conditions right in front of you. Because those are, you win some, you lose some. They don't always go your way. And the earlier you learn that, the easier it gets. It's really hard when you start learning that for the first time, 20 years after I learned it. Now, I learned it real young because I was a competitive dancer and, I was doing acting and things like that when I was a teenager. Well, I started when I was 9. But I got used to the fact that, hey, it's not always going to go your way. Sometimes the judging isn't fair. Sometimes it's just, sometimes you had an off day. And that doesn't mean you're not good. It just means that it wasn't your day, you know? And that's where cliches like it wasn't meant to be come in. And if that's not comforting for you, find something else. But I do find the test, and I was talking to a client about this week, the idea that take, the criticisms that you tend to level, because everybody's got a running critic in their head, inner coach, inner critic. We're talking about the inner critic here. Everybody's got one. And it tends to not originate within you. It's the voice of your bully or the voice of a disapproving parent or somebody, right? It started externally. And I challenge people to take those, withering criticisms and ask the question, so what? Because so many of these things that people are terrified of, you're weird, you're a loser, you're this, other, like, so what? What does that mean? And I mean, I guess it's that, I realized a lot of it was, especially the appearance-based shit, like, you're old, you're ugly, you're fat, like, if that meant that you're not allowed to have an opinion on video games, like, games journalism would gomage tomorrow, okay? It's really interesting how, it's this unspoken thing that certain people are allowed to be these things. But it's irrelevant, It's irrelevant. And that is the point. A lot of the nasty things that are replaying in your head are probably not relevant. And if there are some, like, other things are too general. Like, oh, girls won't like me. Well, some girls won't. Some girls will, right? Boys won't like me. Some boys won't. Some boys will. Newsflash, not all girls are the same. Not all boys are the same. No, really. And unfortunately, because everything has got so standardized, and people tend to, the algorithm just feeds you more and more and more of what you've already consumed. People don't get that perspective of, because, back in the day, we used to see Spider-Man get rejected by the girl he liked until eventually, she got to know him better. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Sometimes Gwen Stacy died. But, now it's these games where everybody's throwing themselves at you. And if that's all you consume, if you don't balance it out with if your diet is just hot and cold running waifus and nothing else, then it's gonna give you a sense that it's like this for everyone. And it's not. The guys who seem really successful with women, the no is like meaningless, right? Like, it's like, okay, she said no next. That's the only difference. Because nobody is everyone's cuppa. And I wish Marvel would stop making women lusting after Thor jokes. There was another one in Ironheart. And it's like, it's not funny anymore. And it makes it seem like all women want the same things enough. Loki fangirls have notes for you, for one. And Captain America, and there was a thing in She-Hulk about Captain America, but Steve Rogers anyway. But yeah, why not have somebody else that's the object of teenage girl lust than Thor? That's so basic. And anyway, But yeah, so moving from Thor to Doctor Who, I did say that there is, thank you for your comment, by the way, you're right, but just try that. Just try to challenge the negative thoughts and see if they really matter. If they are valid but too general, refine it. And if there's something that you think is actually something you really need to work on, well, then work on that. But prioritize. And build based on what you know you're good at. Everybody's got weaknesses, right? Everybody's got strengths. But like I said, Doctor Who, and I'm looking forward to reading this comment because it's like, yay, something I can back, right? But this commenter said that, well, first of all, they said that they tend to like Doctor Who in retrospect better than during preliminary airings. And I think that's true of a lot of people because you don't get the noise afterwards, right? I do think that the toxic elements of the Doctor Who fandom are like the Hoovers or Hooviverse, or forget what that, I always get it wrong. But they are killing that show. It is literal poison, hence me saying toxic, like enough, right? But what this person said, and look at the way this is phrased, okay? Because this is really good. To me, the Doctor is an old man, regardless of actor. They are fundamentally the old man playing the fool sometimes, but always the worst soul that they had in their life and tries to use that age to be better than the young ones around them. That's why I can never fully get behind the young doctors like 15. And you notice this person didn't say, this is who Doctor Who is. Because I could argue the trying to be better because the idea is the Doctor needs the companion in modern Who. They teach each other. Like, the companions have to keep the Doctor human. But this commenter said, to them, this is who the Doctor is. And there's been so many incarnations of the Doctor that everybody has one they like better. And that's completely fair, right? I can't tell this commenter, no, you shouldn't like that, or it's wrong to like that. Like, no, that's your interpretation of the character, right? To me, the reason the Capaldi run landed with such a thud for me is precisely that he is too old to be that angsty. Like, he's older than dirt. He's old when that started. And for some odd reason, even though that Capaldi incarnate, like 12 just went on and on and on. Granted, he died a few bazillion times. And that one episode punching the frickin' diamond wall. Like, to me, that was just a complete violation of Doctor Who. Doctor Who doesn't solve problems by just punching something over and over and over again. But people love that episode, right? And I can't tell somebody not to like it. I just didn't for that reason. But because he's older than old, I would think he'd be less goddamn miserable. Because when you're that grouchy, you can't sustain for that long. You don't have the same resilience. And that's why I like the more fun doctors, like 10, and I really like 13, and I liked 15. Well, I guess I could say I like 14 too, because it's just 10 redux. And 11, I went back and forth on the Matt Smith Doctor Who. There were good moments. I mean, episodes like, I always forget the name of the adipose episode, but stuff like that, like the creepy cute stuff, those were cool concepts. I mean, it was a commentary on diet drugs, but, okay, fun. But I will always find the stuff with Amy and Rory, like, she's terrible to him, and he is a doormat, and the whole thing, like, because the Doctor is so much older and she is so young at the beginning of 11's run, he should have been like, stop. And that's where I agree with the commenter where, like, yeah, he's an old man, and sometimes the writing forgets that. He has the memories of past incarnations most of the time. There's the doctor forgets is this huge trope, which is why I don't mind the timeless child. Because the doctor forgetting or having memories removed, that did not get created by Chris Chibnall. The same way the TARDIS being sentient did not get created by Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman just made it gross and morbid. But it's Neil Gaiman. And you know, pointing out the issues with things doesn't mean you can't like them. I know a lot of people who like the original Avengers movie streamed it on my Discord server. I didn't watch it because I have zero interest in watching that movie again. It's just too Whedon-y. But if other people like it, I'm not going to slap a moral judgment on that, and I'm not going to say they're wrong for liking it. Different people like different things. That's why there's different media. And when you come into something going, to me, in this case, the doctor is an old man, that leaves space for somebody to go, well, I have a different interpretation. Like, yes, the doctor is an old being, but, you know, with 12, we had missies, so Time Lords switch genders, that pre-established. So does a Time Lord have a concept of a man the way we have it? That's a discussion we can have, right? It's not, no, like somebody's wrong, somebody's right. It's just, this is my perspective. And that means other people are allowed to have their perspective, and you can eventually come to points of agreement. And that is how dialogue works. But if you're going in just pounding the table right from the outset, most balanced people are not going to want to touch that because that's just too intense, right? And I mean, see, I can understand somebody not being able to get behind the young doctors. I remember people when Matt Smith regenerated into Peter Capaldi, and the number of fangirls who had hopped on either with him or David Tennant, like, ew, he's an old man now, and I'm like, oh God. Like he was an old man before. The funny thing about David Tennant is that if he was just a regular guy, those exact same girls wouldn't even notice him. He says that. Matt Smith, same thing. It's because they are on TV. It is the old school concept of a glamour. Everything's prettier on TV. And that, well, for men anyway, women get the fashion police. Men are getting that more and more too, though, I've noticed. So things are evening and not in a good way. And I would just like everything to be more conversations like this and less bad writing, bad acting, plot holes. Like, if you're gonna take a swing like that, you have to back it up. This commenter backed it up, right? Why is the doctor an old man? Well, there you go. And that's a viable interpretation because there's been so many versions of Doctor Who, and yeah, quite a few of them were, well, they look older to us now because everybody looked older in the 80s for some reason. But I mean, 30 just looked older in the 80s. I don't know why. It might have been the styles. But there have definitely been multiple doctors who were older men. The character has been around for thousands of years. So, fair. That's a defensible position. And I think that if more people came at these things with maturity, then we could have cool conversations. The problem is when people use media as a soothe, when it's the only thing keeping you going. You can't come at it from a mature perspective, like as an emotional adult, because you're looking for it to save you. And so if it doesn't directly soothe you, then that's where they get the I felt attacked by it. And I wish that phrasing had never entered, the discourse, because I had a bad reaction to it, or this inspired difficult feelings in me. Try being a woman, in her 40s, the back half of 40, playing video games right now. Yeah, that is a mood. In a youth-obsessed culture, but old men are okay, because as long as you're younger than Pedro Pascal, guys, you are fine. And even then, but, more and more there's this, oh, nobody wants that attitude towards, and it's openly expressed. I mean, look at all the old jokes with Jaheira in Baldur's Gate 3. Astarion's older than she is. He's got white hair. Right? There is a double standard. And so if you're feeling attacked by media, recognize that media doesn't know you. Try, I'm clearly not the audience for this. And that was the hard part of Baldur's Gate 3 for me, because I've still got the old box. It's up there behind Gollum of my copy of the original Baldur's Gate. I've got the old Interplay box from back in the day. And I am not the player Larian wants, because they're not Interplay. They don't want me. They don't really want... Well, I guess they figure they've got us, so they don't have to pander to us. But that is tough, to recognize that a franchise changed hands and is not for you anymore. It happened to a lot of people with Star Wars. It happened to me with Star Trek. We watched Wrath of Khan on the server recently, and it's like, okay, I still like this movie. It's not that I misremembered. It's not that I've grown out of it. The whole thing has changed, and it does happen. And whether or not you like certain changes is completely personal, and nobody can force you to like it or not like it. Just please keep it in that frame, because I do think that, as somebody who used to work in like major content creation, I'm still a content creator now. I know that the vast majority of content creators do not want to hurt anybody. Offend? Yeah, we'll defend our right to offend. But hurt? No, that's never the intention. Everybody has blind spots. Sometimes things don't execute properly. Sometimes it's just not the right time for a particular person to play a particular game. Sometimes it's exactly the right time. Like, I don't care how janky it was. I will have a soft spot for Assassin's Creed 3 because it's what I played recovering from a knee surgery that didn't go great. I will always be a little bit, I have an odd relationship with Kingdom Hearts 2 because I played it after I had my wisdom teeth out, well, the first round of wisdom teeth out, and was on OxyContin while I was playing it. And that was how I found out that my dopamine receptors are shot, and so painkillers don't work on me the way they work on normal people. So that was a pretty miserable time. You get all the side effects of those drugs and not the main thing that they're supposed to do. Yeah, and my face was like puffed out to here, and I remember there was some kind of snake monster, and I remember being acutely aware of the vibration in the DualShock controller, and I was like, this is probably the wrong time for me to play this game. And that is my most vivid memory of Kingdom Hearts 2, right? The first time I played Bloodborne, I absolutely despised it. And Elden Ring, because of all the asset reuse, made me want to go back and play Bloodborne. And I was like, okay, I see why I didn't like this game, but I enjoy it more now. You know, sometimes it's just a wrong time for you in a piece of media. Sometimes the nostalgia keeps working. Sometimes it doesn't. There's a magic to this stuff, and sometimes it fails. But I wish we'd stop assuming intents in content creators, because it's not helping anything. It's not creating better content. It's just making you feel the creators reacting, like bracing for the horde, you know, as we called it, you know, the shit flux. Just, it's impossible not to. There are certain videos I put out and I'm like, I feel like this is important, but here we go. And, you know, I've just got my channel to calm down after the last one with the manosphere stuff. And I mean, that one pisses me off because it's like, look, guys, you say you want people to care more about men and men's issues. And then when they do and they don't do it in the way you like, you attack them. This is exactly why people don't want to turn over that rock. Stop shooting yourself in the foot and possibly the face. You know, like, cut it out. If you want people to engage with the topics that you care about, you have to be prepared that they're not going to do it in the way you want, or even in the way you would, which is frequently not the same thing. A lot of people want to be able to scream and yell and falsely accuse and name call, but they want the other person to just take punch after punch after punch after punch and not respond. And that's not realistic. If you want people, in my opinion, I listen to people like this commenter who's just like, this is what it is to me. And it's like, okay, it's important to keep in mind that, you know, you gotta have, and I do think that, you know, Graham in 13's run was, the reason I liked him is, okay, I still have the old British man in the show, even though the doctor is, you know, a woman, as Earth people understand it. Graham, oh my God, Graham's one of my favorite companions ever. And I did realize that, okay, we still have this vibe. So I understand what the commenter's saying. I just like happy, joyous doctor. I do not like grouchy doctor. And I know a lot of people do. Like, I like moments of grouch, but that's because I started watching with Tom Baker. And, you know, he had this megawatt smile and the twinkle in his eye, and that sold the ridiculousness. And I'm like, I love this. I love what he's doing. I feel happy watching this. He knows exactly where he is and exactly what he's doing, and he just wants to entertain. And that was my original connection to Doctor Who. If people started watching in the Capaldi years, it's going to be different, right? And everybody's allowed to have that as long as they keep it in, you know, different instead of right, wrong, good, bad. And I will listen to someone, you know, if I was writing Doctor Who, it's never going to happen, but I'd be like, all right, these are reasonable people who can be satisfied. So let's make sure we pay attention to this framing, right? If all people are going to do is complain, if you can never be satisfied, to quote Hamilton, people aren't going to make content for you. Because you'll never be satisfied. You'll never like it. So thank you, commenter. Please keep up comments like this and help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for some use but can't afford it, coffee.com/LeannaK. Please like and subscribe. And if you want to sign up for a Leanna Care session yourself, the link is in the description box below. God, this is getting really, really long. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend. Happy 4th of July to people down south in US. Happy 4th.